A White Bear Lake police officer is being recognized for his commitment to mentoring area youth. We'll talk with him, plus we'll visit a center here in White Bear Lake, helping make a difference in the lives of local families.
Have you ever imagined being confronted by an active shooter? We're going to talk with Officer Eric Stannard about improving your chance of survival.
Hello and welcome to Lake Area Beat. Safety officials train throughout the year for potential active shooters, like the one who shot and injured two New Hope police officers outside a city council meeting in January.
Departments are certainly looking at their own emergency plans, but it's also a good time for everyone to think about what they would do in an active shooting situation.
After a gunman opened fire outside a New Hope City Council meeting in January, shooting two police officers,
Get down, get down.
Local law enforcement isn't taking any chances when it comes to safety.
These things happen quite infrequently, but when they happen, they can often be very deadly and highly violent.
Maplewood Police Chief Paul Schnell says the city has an emergency plan in place for council meetings. It addresses everything from the weather to an active shooter.
There is a plan. We hope and anticipate that we'll never have to use it, but nonetheless, it's critical that we're prepared.
Schnell says a police officer will always be present at council meetings, a precaution taken by some but not all cities. Officer Eric Stannard is a firearms instructor for the White Bear Lake Police Department. He says the New Hope shooting had officers talking.
It was the #1 topic the next morning at our roll call and trying to find out details about it. And then we do, what if scenarios amongst ourselves. So it definitely sets the wheels turning.
The department actively trains for active shooter scenarios, and Stannard says in any drill, setting up an immediate go plan is key.
Going back to pre-Columbine here, there was never really any kind of an immediate go plan. It was always something that was staged and then planned for and then dealt with. Well, we can't afford to do that anymore just because got to save people's lives.
Although most officers never use their guns in their career, it's important for police to be prepared. And for the average citizen, both Schnell and Stannard agree. Although rare, people should plan for an active shooting situation.
People who don't move during armed encounters, we have a name for that, we call them casualties.
According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, there have been 160 active shootings in the U.S. between 2000 and 2013, resulting in over 1,000 casualties and nearly 500 deaths. The three highest include Aurora, Colorado, Virginia Tech, and Fort Hood. In Minnesota, 11 people were killed in 2 school shootings and 6 in the workplace. Experts say the 3 things you should do are run, hide, and if you can't do either, fight back.
If there is no other options, this becomes the option of last resort, and that is to engage the person in a way that increases the likelihood of survival.
We interviewed Officer Eric Stannard, who we just saw in the story about active shooters, a couple of years ago, and then a few months later, the elementary school shooting happened at Sandy Hook.
Yeah, and it's sad that we have to practice stuff like that and prepare for it, but I think it's good to make sure that people are being more aware of and really kind of imagining what would happen in a situation and kind of mentally preparing. I think that's probably one of the best tools that people can utilize. Yeah, and I think people need to realize too that they may not know that an active shooter situation is happening, but when they start seeing emergency personnel, it doesn't really matter what is going on, get out of our way, right?
Right,
well, true.
And a lot of these things in crowd situations, you may not know, but you see us running. We're running towards the fire, towards the danger, towards the active shooter. Move over, get out of our way. If you're in a car, if you're on foot, we're doing these.
Good advice. Otherwise, get run over.
Exactly. Get out of the way, please. We're trying to do our job and help you. Just help us by getting out of the way.
Good advice. We're going to take a short break, but first,
Sergeant John Vetty tells us why it'll take more than luck to get home safely after St. Patrick's Day celebrations.
Hi, I'm Sergeant John Vetty. St. Patrick's Day is not the time to test your luck when it comes to driving intoxicated. If you're going to be sipping some green beer, make sure you have a sober ride. Added patrols will be on Minnesota roads looking for intoxicated drivers, and that includes White Bear Lake. Nearly 500 people were arrested for DWI last year during the St. Patrick's Day weekend, and nearly 28,000 people are arrested each year for drunk driving in Minnesota. And 1 in 7 Minnesotans has a DUI on their record. 35% of all traffic deaths are alcohol related, and a DUI can cost you your license, thousands of dollars in costs, and possible jail time. The best way for you to protect yourself from drunk drivers is to wear your seatbelt and call 911 if you witness impaired driving. We want your St. Patrick's Day celebrations to be fun yet safe, and they can be by following these easy tips. I'm Sergeant John Vetty, reminding you to plan ahead, and we'll see you next time.
hey Greg, what are you doing in the bushes?
Oh, nothing. Just doing some bird watching. Yeah.
You know, this doesn't seem like such a great place for bird watching.
All right. I was just trying to get a look inside my city hall. I don't know any other way to get information.
Greg, you're such a silly man. You don't have to be a creepy spy. Why don't you just watch GTN?
GTN?
Yeah, GTN, the Government Television Network. It's on cable channel 16. They got a ton of information of everything that's going on in the 12 different communities in the northeast suburbs of Ramsey and Washington County.
No kidding. So you mean I can get all this information by watching channel 16 at my own home?
You better believe it, and they've got all their shows on their website too. That's gtn.org.
Wow, I should go check out channel 16 right away.
Hey, what are you guys doing over there? Government Television Network. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/GTN16.
In any profession, there are always the people who give a little extra. Sometimes they're recognized for it, and sometimes not.
In a few minutes, we're going to talk with a White Bear Lake police officer who's been awarded for the great work he's doing for our schools. But first,
here's a look at an organization working to help families and youth in need.
We're all about how do we work with kids and families and adults in the community within which they live, and how do we help them develop the skills to be successful now, but also down the road.
Northeast Youth and Family Services help kids in trouble find a better path. They provide youth diversion programs and mental health services for struggling families, including in-school counseling in 3 districts. President and CEO Jerry Hermadka says the program focuses on giving kids something good to commit to instead of crime.
So we're trying to help kids, realize they did something wrong. You can't do that anymore, but we also are saying, what are you interested in? What are you excited about? What are your talents? And sometimes kids go, I don't know. And so that's what we're trying to do, is help them understand what their talents are, what their interests are, and then how can we help them get connected and follow that rather than continuing to make the choices that are illegal.
The diversion program requires kids to do community service. They may fulfill that service through CHORE, a program helping senior citizens stay in their homes as long as possible. 65 kids work with these seniors through Northeast.
And this isn't community service. You sometimes see it picking up garbage along the that is not community service. That's like a punishment. This is kids being connected to something positive.
Northeast receives referrals from police, including the White Bear Lake Police Department. Officer Isaac Tuma works as a school resource officer and received the 2015 Service to Youth Award.
Having Officer Tuma in the schools, it's that connection. He's very good at developing relationships with teachers, but also with kids, and also with our staff.
Hermadka says Tuma is also credited with connecting to the community and helping give police a good name.
He's very good at reaching out to the community and of developing relationships with different parts of the community so that people go, yeah, police are all right. You know, it's not like, oh, police are bad, I don't want to deal with them. No, they are cool.
And here's Officer Isaac Tuma. Congratulations on the award.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. You've been on the show before.
Yeah, a couple times.
All right, so first off, can you just tell us about the award that you received, and did you even realize that you were getting the award?
Well, the award is, in my opinion, I got an award for doing my job. I work as a school resource officer at North Campus at Central Middle School, so I work with kids. And I also do the investigations for people that are under 18, so if they're juvenile. And so the award came, I didn't even know I was getting it. I was nominated by my chief, and yeah, it was a big surprise, and it was really nice of them to do that.
Well, good.
Yeah, so Chief Swanson was just on and last month, and she's the one that nominated you. Did she tell you ahead of time that you were being nominated, or did you know that you had been chosen for the award?
I got a phone call from Northeast Youth and Family Services, and it was from the one of the CEO, and he called me and said, "Yeah, my name is so and so, and you won an award today, and this and I had not met him at that point, and so it was a huge surprise to me, and I knew nothing about it, and then they explained that I went to the award ceremony and explained more about it, and yeah, it was very nice of them to give that to me. So.
Well, good, and you're certainly deserving of it. Jerry Hermatka, I understand, is President and CEO of Northeast Youth and Family Services. So he had mentioned that you have a unique ability to connect with the kids in the schools. Tell us, I mean, I don't think everybody has that skill or
desire.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think I have some crazy ability at all. I have fun. And I think it takes a certain personality, especially with police officers. Not all the police officers are signing up to work with the kids all the time, but so you can, certain officers really enjoy it, and I'm one of those. And I think it all stems from originally I was going to be a teacher a long time ago, once upon a time, and I decided after I went through some schooling that I changed it up, and then eventually it led to law enforcement. But I think that the way I started out really, I love and enjoy kids. And so working with them is just a natural thing to me. I have a lot of fun doing it. And at some point, I think we're on the same level. So,
well, so you're just a big kid.
Right.
Well, that group of the community, I imagine they have their own unique challenges. Tell us about maybe some of those challenges in dealing with the youth.
You know, I teach DARE, and so it kind of starts out at DARE, 5th grade, and then the different maturity levels that you get up through high school. I have them up through 9th and 10th grade. And so, first of all, I get to know them on a very personal level. And so some of the challenges are just the same thing that the police officers are dealing with out on the street, as far as you're dealing with the same couple people many times, and that can be frustrating because you're trying to be a good mentor for them. You're trying to teach them to make the right decisions, and so when it doesn't happen, it can be frustrating. But that's just part of the job, and there's a lot of kids making immature decisions at that age, and so there's a balance between immaturity and where it becomes criminal, and I kind of have to figure that out all the time.
And you kind of touched a little bit on it, but there's you're involved with them at elementary school, you're involved with them at middle school, and when they start the beginning years of high school, and a lot of your interaction is not necessarily criminal. I think maybe some parents think you're there to police the kids, right. But what is the majority of your day spent doing, would you say?
I don't have a normal day by any means, because the schools, they're very, I'm very interactive, whether it's one day I might be going on I've done a field trip every now and then, or when I'm teaching DARE, and then obviously there's emergencies every now and then, and there's a lot of different situations that I get. But most of them I try to make positive. Obviously it can't be that way all the time, but I try to make sure that if I am going to run into them, whether it be for a criminal act or if they're a victim of a crime, I like to recognize when I already have seen them and said hi to them, or where I know them from. I mean, a lot of times, and they'll tell me, yeah, I recognize you. You're always in my lunch period, or and I try to go to highly visible places like that. The lunches, the different groups that they have out in the community when they do volunteering, and whatever it might be in the community. I try to get to know the ones that aren't making the bad decisions, because they might one day, or they might become a victim, and I want to have that connection before.
So can you just maybe give us a real quick brief overview of the CRO job, the school resource officer job?
Yep.
Is that something that all police officers are required to do at some point?
No, it's not, and that's for the because of the fact that we already talked about how you have to apply for it, which means that we're not going to send an officer to be stuck in that position when they don't want to be, because that would be a bad situation. So I applied for it, and when you apply for it, it's for 3 years. And you could reapply for it after the 3 years, but they have that, so then it's such a benefit to get to know all the kids in the community. I imagine this is my 2nd year in the schools, so I have 1 more year in the schools, and then I'll be back to patrol or wherever I end up from there. But it's such a benefit to get to know all the students, but it's not for everybody, like we mentioned. So I applied for it, and I received it, and now I'm in my 2nd year, and I've taught DARE for 3 years, and so I get to know the students that way too. And so if I go into a middle school, I love that I recognize every year of students, at least some of the majority of the kids, so it's fun. Mm-hmm. And to parents out there, if I do know your kid, it's not a bad thing. I try to make it a positive thing.
And they should know that you're a resource too for the parents as well. If they think that there's some issues, that law enforcement might need to know about, they can go to you at the school.
Yep, and that's definitely true. And I work very closely with the principals and associate principals, and they also use me as a resource because they have a lot of connections with parents in dealing with those situations. So often they can send them to me.
And we're running out of time, but we just want to congratulate you again on your award and for all that you do with the students at every level. And obviously you're doing a good job, and the kids like you too.
Yeah,
So
honestly, I have seen you interact with the kids, and you're very good at it.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
job.
I'm blushing right now.
Well, we hope to have you back again soon and talk about some of the other things that you're involved in, because this isn't just everything that you're involved in. You've got other projects going on.
I do. Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about Northeast Youth and Services, please check out their website at nyfs.org.
We're going to take a break, but first, there's plenty of winter left, and if you're looking for a fun pastime, producer Jeffrey Wilson may have the answer. Check out how people are sailing on White Bear Lake without any water.
Deep into a Minnesota winter.
It's a little bit of a workout, so you can stay warm once you get going. So you can do this on skis or a snowboard, okay?
A group of people find joy on the icy tundra.
It's the only thing that makes winters in Minnesota tolerable for me.
Everything's cold.
Snow kiting.
Here we go.
Gives people an escape from the winter blues found during these short, cold winter days.
Cabin fever is a bad thing, so you want to get out and do something. A lot of people have skis in the wintertime. A lot of people have snowboards, ice skates, and all of these things are usable with a kite. And it's just a great way to extend that investment already and give yourself an opportunity to play.
Some use it to find calm.
So I enjoy the ride. It's really, really fun. It's an endless pursuit of entertainment. It's definitely a way for me to get off the grid and away from anything that's going on, and just to get plugged into something. And there's a lot of ways to enjoy doing that. Rock climbing, snowmobiling, whatever your thing is. And I think a lot of us that enjoy kiting, we really find some sense of peace about doing this.
While others find excitement.
Basically, no trick is ever good until you get it caught on film, so no matter what you can do.
The ability to harness the wind and go out and ride and do things, and what draws most people, I think, to this sport is the ability to jump and do tricks and things like that. What's really amazing about kiting is that you don't need jumps or ramps or anything like that, you just send the kite and it'll lift you off the ice or water or whatever you happen to be on, and you can spin around and do tricks and hopefully land it, and you know, it's a lot of fun. It's always a challenge. There's always something new to learn.
Using any opportunity to get outdoors.
Pretty much whenever the wind blows. I would say on average in the wintertime, I'm probably out at least once a week, probably 3 times a week.
To connect with people.
The kiting community is really a helpful community. Everybody helps each other, and at first I started learning this in Minnesota and thought, well, it's the Minnesota nice thing, right? But it's not. It's actually around the world.
You might want to drive it a little bit up into the wind.
And find happiness in the blowing snow.
When you find yourself out here and you're kiting on your own and you're just smiling to yourself, it's not political. You're not laughing at somebody that you work with, their joke. Just the pure joy.
Stanley, what on earth are you doing?
Well, no, film.
Didn't you say you always wanted to be in pictures?
Well, yes, I did, but not like this.
Stanley, it's all about television nowadays. Look at this flyer I was handed at the high school game last night. It says you too can make TV. Volunteer with On Location TV 19 and we'll show you how.
Well, Ollie, what do you think that means?
Stanley, pick up that film reel. Oh! It means that if you volunteer with On Location TV 19, you too can make TV.
Well, Ollie, what kind of TV? Oh!
If you volunteer for On Location TV 19, you can cover high school sporting events, community concerts, parades, and much more.
Do you think that's why they had cameras at the game last night?
Why, certainly. That's why they had those announcers, instant replay, and all that modern TV stuff.
Ollie, do you think that I could operate one of those TV cameras?
Why, of course you could. The folks at TV 19 will show you how.
Ollie, are we still living in the 1930s?
No, of course not, you silly Willy. Why do you ask such a question?
Well, then why are we in black and white?
That's what they call special effects nowadays. I'm sure if you wanted to appear in color, all you'd have to do is ask.
Can we be in color, please?
An internationally recognized lab in the Twin Cities is helping police officers make drunk driving cases official.
Producer Mary Klein and photographer Nick Anderson have the details.
If history is a predictor of future, then yes, we are going to continue to see an increase in the caseload that we have to deal with on a regular basis.
Catherine Knudsen, Director of Forensic Science Services at the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, began working for the agency in 1999. It was around then DNA analysis was becoming a big deal due to new technology called PCR. Instead of needing large amounts of blood, for example, blood stains smaller than a pinprick could be analyzed for DNA.
But we could now look at cigarette butts, who was smoking them. You can do wearer DNA, who was wearing a ball cap or a ski mask that's been discarded at a burglary. We can now swab guns and see who's been handling them. So as the technology advanced, it essentially increased exponentially the amount of evidence that started coming in the door.
So much new evidence was coming through the door that caseloads increased by 180%. The BCA responded by applying new technologies, hiring additional scientists, and streamlining evidence. In addition to violent crimes like sexual assaults and homicide, 1/3 of the cases processed for DNA in the lab are property crimes. The BCA's calibration lab, also known as the breath testing section, is separate from the testing lab. It calibrates and deploys instruments used across the state by law enforcement agencies to obtain breath alcohol concentrations. These are different from the portable breath testing devices used in the field, and a certified operator, also trained by the BCA, administers the test at the police department. It's the official measure, and the accuracy is imperative in court cases.
And if you're off by a significant amount or even a small amount, that could have some major consequences for the individual who is being accused of driving under the influence.
The breath testing lab is the first in the Midwest and one of only 16 in the nation to achieve international accreditation. More than 200 law enforcement agencies across the state use their instruments.
What it means to us is that our customers and those individuals who rely upon our results can be rest assured that the results that come out of our laboratory are accurate and reliable.
It's amazing how much DNA technology has changed over the years, and particularly those cold cases, solving those cold cases.
Yeah, science has really improved, and I remember years ago we thought science was awesome, and now they keep discovering new ways to process crime scenes and to gather DNA evidence and solve these old cases and helping out in DWIs and stuff.
Yeah, and the Minnesota BCA seems to be at the forefront of all that.
Yep, we're very lucky to have them help us out. That wraps up this edition of Lake Area Beat.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.